Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Roundup here on Blood Bowl Live. Here to go through all of the last week's action from the A&DBBL Season 9. My name is Chris. Scott joining me this week to go through all of the details. No Tom Hubble this week, but Stephen joining me because there is a thunderstorm and he is not happy. So let's just hope that we get through this without a power cut like we got earlier in the day. Hey, this is the cut and thrust of live Blood Bowl, is what this is. We will dive straight in. Apologies, I've got 3D printers going on in the background as well. So if you can hear stuff in the background of my mic, I've tried to mitigate that, but we're just gonna go for it. We're just gonna go for it. We've got enough games to go through this week. 17 games, so we are going to be flying through somewhat. And the first four I need to find manually. So let's do that. And let's start off with round three. We are in the bottom group and we are on the 4-0 victory for the Chaos Dwarfs, Dawizar versus the Eagles of Corn. Four coaches, including myself, got together on Tuesday to play a couple of back-to-back games to get through a few. And the Chaos Dwarfs had a very, very good day of it. 4-0, 2-2 on the casualties, 20 SPP from this game. Scott, the Corn team got off to a pretty good start to the season with a win in their very first competitive game. They've come up against a seasoned, experienced coach here who is just coming off the back of a good result. So a tough game for them to be on the receiving end of.
Yes, very much so. Good evening, all. Good evening, chat. Good evening, Mr. John Reader, man, myth, legend, and anyone else of that level of persuasion in chat. This is one where Mike comes into it. However, not having a bad start to the season, as we discussed last week. All of our new rookie coaches setting very high standards, or have been to date. He comes up against Coach Acredes himself, Mr. Scott Phipps. And if we look at this particular match, 4-0, oodles of SPP. From what I understand as well, it was one of those games whereby basically Mr. Acredes, Mr. Phipps, if he was getting one pow and one stumble and one put down, he was getting lots as well. And Mike just could not get the armor breaks, which we all know. We've all been there, some of us more recently than others. But when you cannot get an armor break and a casualty, it's a long old evening of playing Blood Bowl as well. So, yeah, I think it's going to be another lesson in terms of Mike and his learning curve. It is a long season. We keep repeating that for all of our coaches, just not our new ones as well. All of coaches. It's a long season, long way to go, and a really, really solid win with the Chaos Dwarfs, starting to add some pretty ridiculously dirty skills on key individuals as well, and a really good turnout. Scott really utilising that balance between hobgoblins and centaurs as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting game. I mean, for the 4-0 win and for the amount of casualties that he got, 2 dead players came from this game. I think, including his captain, was one of the ones to die, who he had got block on after the first game. So, not without its pain, but a very good result. Mike was having a terrible day for dice rolls, to be honest. We'll get to his next game in a bit, but even that was not rolling more than maybe a 4 or 5 on any armor break, which is just tough. When you can't remove the opposition, especially when you've got quite a strong opposition to come up against, it can be very, very difficult. So, but a very good result here for Scott. Exactly what he will have wanted to kickstart his season and get some more points on the board. And a long way to go in this group. So no worries for Mike. Look on to the next game. It's just started to pour with rain and I'm under a flat roof. So God knows what people are hearing from me today. Like I said, we are absolutely flying through today because we've got so many games to go through. So I'm going to immediately jump on to the next one, which is staying in this same group. And it is the Bitey Ducks versus Blob, Blob, Blobby, Blobby, Blob, Blob, and a 2-1 victory for the Lizardmen team here over the Snotlings. 5-2 on the casualties. Um, a very, very tough game, to be completely honest. A very, very difficult game, this. And one where we were live on Twitch. You can go back and watch it on YouTube. And I'm not afraid to say I completely let myself down and acted like a child for approximately 3 hours and 23 minutes.
You couldn't have told that there was any brotherly resentment there, Christopher, at all. But
um,
Chris, from your perspective, just conscious of time as well.
yeah,
Phil was doing what Snotlings are good at, which was fouling, getting in the way, causing frustrations as well. That and the giant mercenary. So when you saw the giant come online with 3 bribes as well, and the riotous rookies, it gave you a good insight in terms of how Phil was going to play this game. Yes, he was going to play to the strength of the Snotlings, all of the expected fouling with 3 bribes. Did you just take a deep sigh and plunge straight in, or did you have a game plan that you thought, this is my structured game plan, I'm going to stick to it?
I think I
Because it,
wasn't too worried about the giant because I've played against giants before, and I know to largely just try and avoid them is fine. Don't need to worry about them too much. Um, the rookies, I knew I'd pretty much always be facing 11 or 14 players, so it's fine. We'll just have to deal with that. And the bribes, again, kind of, it was all things that I'm used to coming up against, I guess. But it was really tricky. Phil was good with his positioning. He got the giant into difficult positions. He got some, good players removed, some good blocks in, and made it very, very difficult. And I was quite fortunate at 1-1 to get the equalizer. I think that's the only mistake in the game Phil made is he had a very secure ball that was very difficult for me to get to. And he kind of broke away and gave me slightly less dodges to get a block on the ball, which freed the ball up. So other than that, it was really, really tough. And
I did know
the last few turns were me running down the pitch to try and score, being chased by a rushing, blitzing giant.
I did
Um,
watch that because I think, weren't you down to one
I think I,
Saurus and 2 Skinks at one point? One Skink had the ball, but as you said, the Saurus was catching him and just catching him. Didn't it get to the last, I think the penultimate turn, whereby the giant actually boneheaded, so couldn't go anywhere, and you managed to get away?
yeah, that's the only reason. And it was, yeah, it was very tough. And yeah, I absolutely tilted at even at 1-0 up. I think then at 1-1, like I absolutely lost the plot. I was unpleasant to play against. I let myself down, and it wasn't a good showing. But
Lessons all to us, everybody. We can all, no matter how many games of Blood Bowl we play, no matter how many coaches we play against, no matter what teams we play or we play against, sometimes you just don't like this game.
yeah,
Whatever reason, you don't like it. But we all come back. We all come back. Good evening, Jane, in the car. You're listening in the car. I'm assuming this is the French excursion coming back from plundering far and wide. But if you are, guys, safe trip back, safe drive in the rain. See you all soon.
yes. We'll move on from this game. Ducks with a good win. Both these teams with another game to play, but we'll step away from Swamp Dome for a moment and we will go to round 7. And we are going to this group here. And we're going to a 2-0 victory for 5 Rules of Dodge against Wreckham AFC.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
There's a
um,
classic thunderstorm, ladies and gentlemen, breaking
yeah.
over Woodbridge this evening. So
That
yeah,
is, and that's thunder in stereo coming from you and me.
that is not the wrath and the anger of Tom Hovell at missing out tonight. That is nature in its finest.
A 2-0 victory. Yes, I know, mate. You don't like it. A 2-0 victory for the 5 Rules of Dodge here. 3-3 on the casualties, though. Ogres giving as good as they get, causing injuries, killing an elf on their way. We know, Scott, that Tom is he's one of the best coaches in the league, sort of based on how he's done before. He's a former champion. He's giving these Dark Elves a good go this season. And Scott will have always had a bit of a challenge here in this game.
Yeah, it was always going to be a difficult one for Scott. He's playing to the theme and the ethos of his team. He's really enjoying doing it, I know. Yes, he's taking the nobblers. Yes, he's taking the fouls and the heady brew and the Kari cold steel in terms of giving him that additional. And it's something we'll come on to a bit later as well. A couple of coaches this season starting to take more coaches who can make a difference on the pitch. So we've seen Kari Cole still here tonight, and we'll see a few others. And as if by magic, Nuffle himself speaks and says, just get on with it, Bryant. A great win for Tom, especially with all of those injuries against. And we know how fragile it is, how relatively expensive elves can be, whether they are dark elf, wood elves, or pro. So, yeah, very good win. And the momentum just starting with Tom Hans. And as we'll see over the next couple of games that he plays on this evening's roundup, Mr. Hans has quickly moved into a very, very strong position. And this was the first game in terms of on that path on his latest run.
Yeah, Scott with all of his various. Yeah, I know, Stephen, you don't like it.
The
Scott with
slap.
the, all his.
Don't
He's
spread
sorry.
that.
The dog is climbing up me at the moment because he's not very happy. Yeah, heady brew something we're used to coming from Scott. The coaches, I think, something people are getting used to. And yeah, it's going to be a tough season for him, and Tom's going to be happy to come away with this 16 SPP for him. Really useful build there to improve his team. Scott's in the chat saying Dark Elves slapped me about. Good game. Every time one into a one, Delves capitalized and scored. So yeah, maybe a tough day on the dice for Scott, but a good amount of casualties and a good amount of SPP on those ogres as well, which we will. Yeah, well, let's have a little look now what he's done with that SPP. I mean, look, stand firm guard on one, armbar brawler on another one. So not shabby for the skills that he has managed to get out. Two skilled ogres in that team.
And I think 3 out of 4 of those skills we'd be quite happy with as a coach. Stand firm and guard, give you a very good line of scrummage holder, and having brawler to give you that re-roll ability as well when
Yeah.
you are going for a block. No bad thing as well. Jump up, it's always useful on the little fellas. Catch on one is going to be good, and safe pair of hands, you know where to put the ball. So not the worst in terms of randomized skills as well. It'll give Mr. Norman lots to build on. It'll give his future opponents lots to think about as well.
We will come back to Tom Hans in a bit. The last one that's on my bit of paper, because it's not on tour play, is round 5. We are going back to Swamp Zone, and it is another 4-0 victory for the Chaos Dwarves. A good day for them. 7 casualties and 8 touchdowns over 2 games is an absolutely phenomenal day. Snotlings getting a little bit of a beating here, taking 8 injuries and 3 deaths. A absolute battering by the Chaos Dwarfs. Chaos Dwarfs versus Snotlings is an interesting matchup. I don't really, there's not the tackle there that normal dwarfs would have for the Chaos Dwarfs, but the amount of strength and then some block in there that they've got will have been a challenge for Phil.
It would have been. The little fellas, the old snotlings, can take you a certain distance, but as soon as you start to lose them, you start to lose them quite significantly as well. And when your dice start to roll, on casualties above those 8s, yeah, it's a very, very painful day. The pump wagon went at a half time as well, got sent off, didn't come back like it had before. And it was one of those games where Mr. Phipps did not take his foot off the throat, to use the sporting phrase as well. 26 SPP, 3 deaths, 8 casualties. That is a phenomenal day at the office. That's more SP in one match than some coaches have got in the entire season so far. More on that later. So again, 2 great wins, as you said, Chris. 8 touchdowns, none against. Really puts the Chaos Dwarfs in a very strong position at this stage of the season.
Yeah, looking very, very strong now, and having built a team with a lot of block in there, block on the 2 Bill Centaurs. A scary looking team is starting to grow there. Secret Weapons not maybe doing as much as they could have done for Phil, but it's still a long season, and this group is looking tight based on other results. When we look at the table, I think actually there could be some surprises in this group. So a tough start for Phil with a couple of losses, but all to play for sure. Um, I believe now we are back on the actual homepage, going to another game in Swamp Dome. Like I said, there was 4 games played, 4 coaches all getting together to play a couple of games. A 2-0 victory for the Bitey Ducks here against the Eagles of Corn. Another difficult game for Michael. His dice, particularly his armor rolls. Were very tough. A blizzard coming in this game, which did have a bit of an impact really, because actually there was a lot of rushing that I was trying to do that I was then kind of having to rethink and decide whether I wanted to do. Um, Finally, Scott, the one thing I will say is I had a few games this season where I was just not getting the right SPP on the right players. And finally, in this day, the one thing I did come out of this day with was a nice amount of SPP on the right players. So enough to get some blocks where I need it. But the difficult thing with this one is how it sets me up for the next game. The first punch was a miss next game for a Saurus, and then later on another miss next game for a Saurus. So 2 Saurus down going into that last game against Elves that I've got. Corn can be pretty brutal.
Yeah. Corn, having been on the wrong end of a corn thumping myself, when corn get on a roll, they're very, very difficult as well. We know as well that corn can take a few matches to get some skills, get up to speed as well. So I think 2-0 is a pretty solid result from Mike's perspective as well. Maeve seemed to have behaved herself from the Crocs' perspective, Chris, and maybe put in her best game of the season so far.
She's done very well this season. I'm putting less pressure on her. I'm not getting her into tricky situations that she's not comfortable with. But now that she's got block, it's now a whole different game. Now I'm thinking there's a lot more maybe she can get involved in. So that was key to save up for that block, and getting the 2
And
MVPs was really helpful.
And was Maeve's performance even better? How did she perform? Did she go head to head with Skylar, Angfin? I always get this wrong. Anfin Grim in terms of the star player, or was it?
Skylar was. I've played against Skylar a few times. Didn't I wasn't too concerned. It's kind of it's another Bloodseeker on the pitch, really, isn't it? It's a not Bloodseeker, Bloodspawn. It's a Bloodspawn on the pitch that Mike didn't have going into this game, um, and the Fury didn't upset it too often, um, but I guess I kind of, because I had the big guy as well. Um, it was kind of stay away, because the claws and the mighty blow could rip through my Saurus pretty comfortably. But there were also a couple of times that I can remember where I sort of decided it didn't overly matter if I put a skink next to um, next to Skylar, because as long as it was only going to be 2 dice, it's going to be 2 dice against the skink or 2 dice against the Saurus, and they've got claws, so it's always going to be armor 8. So
Yeah,
I was kind of then using the skinks had to get a bit more involved, but they did the job in this one. Um, so yeah, another tough day for Mike in this game. He lost a couple of players as well on the last couple of turns, a few deaths, but he's sitting on quite a lot of SPP. He's got 3 Bloodseekers, all with 2 SPP, so that's a couple more casualties for them, and he's suddenly got block on a few Bloodseekers, or a different skill depending on what direction he's going. So yeah, a tough day and a tough start to the season, but he's still got 3 points on the board. And again, I think this group could end up being quite tight for that 4th space. Before we move on to the next game, and I appreciate we're in a hurry, but we had an email to BloodbowlLive from your friend and mine and Scott's friend, Mr. Pat van der Reest,
good evening, Pat.
who sent us an email, which I will read to you. Hello, with my beloved Ark Royals stuck in Nagaroth, I figured I should spread proper dedication to Blood Bowl in a different way. You see, my favorite skill for them is perhaps atypically tackle. I propose a prize for the team that scores the most casualties off a tackle or diving tackle over the course of the season, including playoffs. Membership in the Covenant of Blood. That's all my Drushi swear. To celebrate, I would donate some money in their name to a non-profit organization of the league's choice, with a bonus £10 if the winning player has shadowing as well. Um, so here is what I'm requesting for people, anyone who is listening. If you if a opposition player gets injured off the back of your use of tackle or diving tackle, then please let either myself or Mr. Scott Bryant or Mr. Tom Hovell know that that has happened. We will keep a little tally, and whoever has the most will have a donation made in their name from the very, very kind and dedicated listener, Mr. Pat Van Der Ees. A huge thank you to Pat for this suggestion. This is from now. We weren't able to pick this up soon enough to do it from the start of the season. So this is from now, from this point. If you cause a casualty because of tackle or diving tackle, then let us know, and you could have a lovely donation made in your name to a charity. So a little detour there off back. Scott, any questions?
I was just going to say, I can imagine Jamie, as our only dwarf player, absolutely licking his lips at that one.
Yeah, I feel like Luke's going to be getting a bit excited about that as well.
Luke's in chat. Yes, Luke, it is from now. So get yourself fired up.
So that's a little detour. We still have, that's 5 games. We've still got 12 games to go through. We're going to power through. Okay, here we go. Right. Well, 6 touchdowns. Why don't we go to 6 touchdowns next? It is Disco Danger Rats with a 4-2 victory over the Waldenhof Blood Knights. 2-1 on the casualties, 24 SPP for the Skaven team here, and no dead rats. Scott, it's a perfect Skaven outing.
In pouring rain as well. Can't even get better than that. So, Mr. James Handley, kudos. Well played, sir. Well played indeed. Mitch, these are the sort of days when you play rats and you want to just basically stamp on all the models. This is what it drives you to. Mitch actually scored first, took the initiatives with the vampires. The Skavens came back very, very quickly. Looks like a turn 5 touchdown there. So 2-turn touchdown response from James. It goes in level at the half. And I think that was the key thing with this one. When the rats go in level against the drive as well, they can always start to pressure as well. When the rats do get maybe 1-2 players ahead, as we see the blitzer getting a casualty on at least one throw, what does it mean? It means space on the pitch. What does that mean? That's mean the rats love that the most. And what does it mean? Extra touchdown. So it was a touchdown for another gutter runner. Vampires brought it back, but then the thrower sort of earned his money, setting up that throw and a completion to get the extras. The gutter runner for 2-3-2, pressurizing another injury in terms against a good old Colonel K. He's having a great time as a blitzer there, against the vampire blitzer as well. 4-2 in the pouring rain. Thank you very much. How nice is that? And let me just check what was the weather at the start. It was standard weather.
Change. Yeah,
it was standard weather. Yeah, apologies.
Yeah,
it was raining at the end, so maybe they were vampire tears on top of those rats, cursing them. So kudos to Mr. James Handley. Commiserations to Mitch. Early days with that vampire team, but 15 SP. That's a very good return as well.
And I think, to be fair to Mitch as well, I believe that this could have been a 3-3 game. Like, it was that kind of game where both coaches were absolutely going for it. And I think there was possibly some points to be had there. A very unlucky start to the season for Mitch. 2 games where he possibly could have or should have got draws, and has just lost short. But James with his rats, we always knew as soon as that combination was coming, it was going to be a really, really tough one, and a favourite in this group to be finishing highly. So very well done to James. Very much continuing the mantra I had of score at least 3 touchdowns or don't win at all. That's 2 4-2 victories for James. Yep. Interesting to see how the vampires get on with the rest of the group. I think there are some points to be picked up there. And I think vampires are elfy enough that Mitch will get into a groove and will find his feet. So keep an eye on those as the season goes on. We will move on to the next game, which is a 1-0 victory for the Wildermere Wasps against the Elf Preservation Society in Middenheim Group. A very, to be honest, I was quite surprised by this result. I thought I've had Mark down as my dark horse of someone who I think, and I think after his first game against you, Scott, I thought, yeah, I'm right here. There's a good victory against you, who's had a good draw even against you, who had those
Thanks, Chris.
two. You're welcome. Those two elf seasons. So I think Simon's done very well here because he's had a tough start to the season and he's had some tough games in previous seasons. Found his feet and got what I think is a really good result for him.
I think it was an exceptional result for Simon. Looks like he went in with a game plan. He was going to foul a lot. He was going to really use his Goblin linemen for what they are there for, to foul, take players off the pitch as well. And everybody except Scott Norman's other favourite Goblin lineman, Moonface, he did it well, didn't he? He had another great game, causing those injuries and the fouls when they were needed. And if you look at that, the elves did what elves do. It was interesting that I can agree with what has been taken here. When Mark has taken, he's taken the Air Wandering APOC to give him that additional security, especially when you look at his key players. He's got the potential additional reroll with the team mascot as well to give him 4 rerolls for the match. But fouls, and when you start to lose players, I mean, he lost a player on turn 7, then he comes back and he loses another one on turn 10. And before you know it, when you're 2 or 3 players down, usually with elves, you can pretty much hold firm. But against that relentlessness of heavy punching, lot of 2 dice blocks, and those fouls just coming in. As soon as an elf is on the ground, they're getting fouled. There is no ambiguity. Simon had a game plan. He was going to go for it. He got that 1-0 win and he held on to that. So well done, Simon. Commiserations to Mark, but again, a long way to go yet for those elves.
I think it's really opened this group up yet again. Like I think there's
Yep.
lots of coaches, and actually we always say this every season. We say that every single group is close. We say that anyone can beat anyone, and we are seeing very much in this season lots of coaches taking points away from other coaches, sort of maybe in unexpected ways, and that having a real balancing effect. It's still early days, but I think it's going to go down to the wire as to who gets maybe the last couple of places.
Yeah.
That 3rd and 4th slot is going to be very, very close. There's a few people who are looking comfortable, but not many at this point, and results are not going all of the ways that we maybe expect, maybe the ways that the seeding would suggest. So it's going to be very tight, and your group is going to continue to be very, very a very, very interesting one.
It's, I think, as we always talk about, especially this season more than anything, no result is a gimme. No result is a gimme by a long way. We've seen players go from very strong performances into very average draws, into very tight games, to actually going from a very solid, comfortable win into a very heavy defeat. And these are very, very swing. So you're absolutely right, Chris. There's no gimme in this league as well, and there are a lot of surprise results already, and I suspect there are a lot of surprise results yet to come as well.
Well done to both these coaches for a great game played out. My assumption, knowing these two coaches, is that it would have been great fun regardless of the result, and it looks like it was nice and tight. So well done to Mark, well done to Simon. A good game, good luck on your season as it goes on. We move on then to the Argatha Mewers versus I Hate Blood Bowl, and it is a 2-0 victory for the Norse team, continuing their good start of the season that they've had. Some very good results for them so far. And giving as good as they get with regards to the casualties as well. 2-2 on the casualties here. Elliot, having chosen Goblins, got a good win in his first game, but he's come up against Jack here, who, as we know, Jack plays Norse. He only plays Norse. He knows what he's doing with this team. He's got some incredible players in there, 2 incredible looking Valkyries in that team. He's got a bit of tackle in there where he needs it, block all over the board. This is always going to have been a challenge for those goblins. And it's proven a challenge too far for him.
It is one thing we talked about with Jack last time when he came out against the Skaven and James's Electric Rats was his board control. It was very, very telling. We watched it on stream, and I think he's brought that element to his game this season in particular. He really has matured with the Valkyries leading the front as well. That tackle and again all of that block is going to cause headaches for a lot of players as well. And he did what Norse do very well indeed. He got the casualties, he got the death, he's built his SP and a solid 2-0 win. Great result there for Mr. Huns against Elliot as well. And we know goblins, they can either be fantastically destructive to themselves or they can be fantastically destructive and disruptive on other coaches as well. Great result for Jack. Well done him.
Bomber came in for the Goblins. It's the second time we've seen Bomber so far in this roundup.
Dead though, but it's a shame.
Unfortunately, didn't like it.
I'm assuming he either got, looking at it, there was no other injury, so I'm assuming he dropped a bomb.
Possibly blew himself up. It's interesting that, like, inducement wise, Elliot's focused on the bribes here and then taken Bomber. And I've only seen one game so far that has doubled up on star players. Lots of people going for the bribes and maybe the lower cost stuff or maybe the other inducements. So it'll be interesting when we get later in the season. We'll maybe have a little look at the breakdown of inducements and kind of what's being taken. I feel like Bomber being that 50k option may get used a lot by the teams that can take him. Well done to Jack. Commiserations to Elliot. Jack looking good in this group, actually. We'll look at the groups later, but he is sitting in a quite comfortable position at the minute. But we'll come back to another game of his later on. But instead, we are going to go back into Longship and back to the Dark Elves in a Dark Elf versus Dark Elf bonanza full of Dark Elves in a 1-1 draw between Dark Elves and Dark Elves. Tom Huns versus JD here. Very, very balanced on the face of it. 1-1 on the touchdowns, 2-2 on the casualties. Dead elves on both sides, but slightly more dead elves for Mr. Huns, who had a mascot in this game. How do mirror matches look for Dark Elves as a Dark Elf coach? Scott, I think I've said Dark Elves so many times, it's starting to sound weird. How does it look for a mirror match? Because it's a tough one. These two are quite different builds as well, because JD's got a lot of the positionals. He's got both assassins, whereas Tom is still kind of building and actually now is quite low on the ground. So how does it kind of work out?
It is. If you look at the one other thing to point out with the Dark Elves, Tom has gone down that classic route of to start with 3 blitzers, I believe he's 4 now, and the 1 witch elf looking to get 2. JD comes in with a redrafted team, 2 assassins already, a runner, a witch elf, only the 2 blitzers as well, but the randomized skill give them a lot of should we say chaotic opportunities in there as well. They're are very, very challenging to play against. I spoke to Mr. Huns about this Friday, I believe it was in store. And as he said, it could have gone either way. JD did well and did deserve, it was a thoroughly deserved draw as well. Tom possibly could have won it in the last drive, didn't get the rolls of the dice, and a 1-1 draw, I think, a fair result to both coaches. It just shows as well what we talked about earlier. Nothing is a gimme. Tom going from 2 very good opening games as well, 2-2-0 wins. JD coming off the back of that big, heavy defeat that we talked about last week. So to get that 1-1 draw, to really keep himself in contention, there are a lot of matches, and I think this could be one of them which can have a very significant influence on the standings come the end of the season as well. So I think it's a good point for Mr. Huns and even better point for Mr. Clark.
Yeah, Tom and Mr. Reader are looking like the coaches to beat in this group. So JD should definitely see this as 1 point earned rather than 2 lost. It was yet to be seen. I think Tom will get out of this group. I think he's got enough behind him to get out of this group. But the difference between first and second, it does change who you might play in another group. So I think there is still lots of reasons why you maybe want to be top. And yeah, we'll see what impact this has maybe in a few weeks' time. Moving on, we're going back to Swamp Dome, absolutely hugging the action this week. And it is the Boneyard Blitzers versus Dawizar, and a 1-1 draw here for our missing companion, Mr. Hovel. Now, Scott, I think it's fair to say, Scott, that based on the fact that Scott's coming off the back of this game with 2 4-0 wins, and based on the fact that we know that Tom sometimes has the most horrendous luck with his dice. Sometimes sort of, he starts to get on the end of a difficult game, and he can kind of lose it a bit. But I have to say, considering the game before this, he lost players very early on and
Yep.
came out with it with a 2-1 win. And now he's got a 1-1 draw against this powering Chaos Dwarf team. Are we seeing a new Mr. Tom Hovel here? A new kind of enthusiastic, orc heavy, on a mission Mr. Hovel?
I don't want to put the mockers on him, to use the cricketing phrase, but Mr. Hovel, and I spoke to Coach Cradys as well, who sort of reinforced this. Tom Hovel is playing simple. He's playing solid. He's playing a bit more of a measured game, and as if by that, the Thunder Gods concur with that assessment. So he's doing very well. One of these games again where nothing is a gimme. Scott coming off 8-0 in his last 2 matches, scoring very heavily up against Tom, who had a really good match last week in terms of getting his win. So on paper, you thought it was the Chorfs who had that bit more balance, maybe a bit more speed with the Centaurs and the rushes. But Tom stuck in there. He did well. The classic plays from Scott, coach of Creedy's, scored at turn 8 to give himself that half-term lead. Tom came back, kept it solid, kept it simple, scored at turn 16 as well. And even though it doesn't look like a lot happened in there, that's usually the sign of to say there probably a lot did happen, but it meant that because the coaches sort of negated each other, doesn't look like at first glance on tour play a lot happening. But from what I understand, there was a good solid game, and yeah, Mr. Hovel putting himself in a solid position this stage of the season.
I can imagine this being a game that they were both absolutely having to analyze. It looks like it was a relatively long one. We know that sometimes Scott needs to serve in the shop, and that could be part of the reason behind it. But even then, I imagine that this was a very kind of tactical thinking, measured, maybe slow game, really, for the two of them to have both kind of crawl that ball forward. But a very good result for Tom here. And again, we're going to keep saying it, but points maybe coming away from, coaches taking points away from each other, results that you're not quite expecting is going to lead to some very close groups. I think this is a very important result for Tom to keep ahead of what is currently in this group, kind of a pack of coaches with kind of medium results sort of on average. And I think to keep ahead of that, get a point against someone like Scott is going to be very important.
Yep.
Scott will have been, I think, probably happy to take a point off the back of 2 good results, not to have lost any players because he struggled with losing players in previous games. So I think probably all coaches are, relatively happy with the output here. Remains to be seen how important a result like this is going to be for both of them. We will see later in the season. But we will now move on to, we are going to Dark Side, and we are going to the Harlequins coming off the back of their tough first game against Rats to get a good 1-0 victory over Ogres here, 3-1 on the casualties. A very strong result for Simon, and a very important 3 points in this group to push him further up the table. Another Dark Elf coach, we're drowning in them this season. And Simon went for a Dark Elf build different to what everyone else's builds were pretty similar, with maybe one player here or there different. Simon went all in with the runners, the blitzers, the witch elves. He didn't go for the assassins. He went initially lower on the re-rolls, I think, to accommodate that. But now you're looking at his roster, and he may be lower on the blitzes, but both his witch elves now have block. A lineman has block. He's got 3 re-rolls. He's got kick on a runner, which is going to help him control the field. He's got a lot of sitting SPP. Simon is looking like one of these stronger Dark Elf teams out there now.
I think Simon is very much up there. A lot of these skills, by the way, and a lot of the SP do come as well from his second match, because if you look at how much he was earning after this, he did manage to get that second reroll, which is so important for elves as well. He's got as well one of the things, which is a lot more players with that movement 7. So at the moment, he has got the 6 players with movement 7. I'm surprised in terms of the player development, he's gone for block on both witch elves. So a blodge piece is ridiculous on a good day, whether they be elf, whether they be orc, whether they be dwarf, whether they be chorf. But the key thing, usually with witch elves, the sort of meta directs you more towards wrestle, because that's part of their role, to go and sack the ball and to manage those sidelines. But Simon's knows what he's doing. He's got not just block on the blocks, but he's got block on another Dark Elf lineman. And as you said, he's got kick to control the game, to possibly put the ball where he needs it to capitalize on other areas of opportunity, which that movement 7 will really, really help with. Hasn't gone for the APOC. Hasn't gone for the APOC, has gone for the extra reroll as well in there. He's got the dedicated fans to keep the money coming in. So at the moment, Simon, kudos to Simon, he's put himself in a really good position. So all you want is you start the momentum building your team, the wins, whether it's 1-0, whether it's 2-1, 2-0. You know, a 1-0 is perfect at this stage of development for a season. Stay on top of it, keep the SP ticking over as well. And Simon's put himself in a very, very strong position. It was another challenging evening for Carl and the Ogres. Yeah, they didn't quite get it. They got a lot of fouls going through there, but didn't quite get as many injuries as possible. You know, 2 elves, 2 injuries against most sides is an issue. Elves, not so much with the adaptability and the agility they've got there as well.
A more traditional ogre build. I say that because there's more ogres in it, but he did start the season with all 6 ogres, and as a result, did start the season with no rerolls, and still has no rerolls in that team. Hasn't got the treasury yet to get them. Do we think that's maybe what is going to be a bit of an issue for him in early doors, because it's really gonna hit him if he gets some of those bonehead rolls, and he's got no way to stop it, even in a kind of a clutch moment near the end of the game. It's going to make it challenging.
It is going to make it very challenging. So again, kudos for Carl for sticking with his his strategy on these guys. 90k in the treasury. I'd expect that after the next match, we will see at least one re-roll in the bank there as well. But in terms of his results, it's not as if he's getting steamrolled. If you look at the results so far, 1-1 against Jack, solid player with his Norse. 2-1 loss to Harrison and the pure edge of the Amazons. Oh, by the way, shout out to Harrison. Well done on the darts effort there, and fabulously for the amount you raised for Macmillan. So well done, Harrison. So as well, just to have that 1-0 win, it's not as if this team is being rolled over. It's not. It's just taken a little bit while, and I think it is that number of re-rolls and maybe a lack of the dice, and dice not quite going their way, which isn't giving Luke that leverage to step him up, whether it's SP or skill or the treasury. And I think we will see him take that re-roll shortly.
Well done to both coaches here. Well done to Simon. We'll be back to another game of his later on. Carl's Ogres here, a tricky start, but like you said, Scott, lots of very close results. So maybe not a lot needs to change there for something to come from this team. 6 games left. We are absolutely flying. We are absolutely flying. Let's keep going. And we are at your game, Scott. A 2-1 victory for Graham and his Amazons over the Dark Elves. 2-0 on the casualties to the Amazon team as well. And Another result that I think highlights how close this group is going to be, because Graham has historically been quite unfortunate, quite unlucky. But Scott, it seems it's a struggle to get SPP for you at the minute this season.
I'm not going to lie. The first three matches have been a bit of a challenge with these Dark Elves. It was a frustration match, not the fact that Graham didn't play well, because Graham played very well. It was very challenging. He took Kari Coldsteel, which gives him that additional player. So he did have the 12 players there, extra re-roll as well, which is always beneficial. From my perspective, the fact that, as you can see, I got a number of casualties. So by half time, I was actually 4 down because I had a KO'd player as well, which isn't reported on this. I did get a blitz event at the kickoff. I didn't manage to secure the ball. My Dark Elf, of course, 3-up catch, rolled a 1. And so Graham took the ball, went down towards my end of the pitch, almost scored. I managed to get the ball off him and then get up the other end of the pitch to go in 1-0 against the Drive. So the first half played well. Second half, I don't know what it was, whether I've infuriated Nuffle, probably have. And as you can see, it got to a point whereby I was getting fouled when you're playing, then again had another KO. So playing 7 against 11, numbers game, having to dodge out lots more than I wanted to. Had to dodge out with a ball carrier at one stage, rolled a 1 into a 1, ball went down, Graham rightly picked it up, went in and scored to get that equaliser on turn 14. I had 2 turns, and if you know me as a coach, I'm not going to sit back and just suck up a 1-1 draw. If there's an opportunity for a 2-drive score, I would. Unfortunately, on that event, Dark Elves do what most elves do when there's only a 2-up handoff. They had a 1 and re-rolled a 1. And I think I had 4 1-into-1s this match, which cost me all my re-rolls. At key times, the ball went down. Graham rightly went in, picked it up, went out. I caged around him. I couldn't get the ball off him. And he did a 2-dice uphill blitz with re-roll, which ended up being a push. So therefore, he did that. He did the beautiful Amazon hit and run out into a square, went down the side of the cage and doing that. So Graham played very well. It was one of those games where, yeah, the second half dice were just, it was one of those, you've got to live it up as a coach. And the challenge with the new team for me, it's trying to get those scores, to trying to break that cycle, to get the momentum to start getting the SP. If you look at the scores on the Dark Elf Smoking a Pancake, as you can see, it's just 2 touchdowns and no casualties, no completions so far. I mean, I know passing isn't intrinsic in terms of a Dark Elf team, but yeah, it's been an incredibly tough start to the season. But there's a long way to go. And there's a long way to do. Only coming up towards with a lot of tackle next. So, hey, what could go wrong?
Do you think there's an element here of meeting the wrong coach at the wrong time? Because Graham went into this game with a lower team value than yours, and Graham is in a redrafted team. Team value was quite high, but I think he was possibly missing a player. He had to take a journeyman, so he was missing some skilled players, which meant that he got that extra coach as the inducement. Whether the coach came on, I'm not sure, but is there kind of an element of you maybe met Graham at the wrong time? Because I think another time either there'd be no inducements in play, or maybe if you'd met earlier, you would have had some inducements yourself.
Difficult to say, to be honest. I think to use and tick the sporting cliche bingo box, you can only play the team in front of you. I thought Graham did very well. A very good choice taking Kari Coldsteel. I was expecting him to take either a keg or a mascot for another reroll, but he took the extra player as well. So kudos to him. And one of those games, again, if you can't break armor and if you can't get casualties, and when you've got strength 9, again, you're losing people and, you're down to 7, it becomes challenging. That's what I'd say as well. Now, if the other team are down to 7, that's great. And I was going through my KOs. I think I had 4 KOs against Luke. I think I had 2 KOs against Mark, who both came back. And again, I only had 1 KO through a crowd surf against Graham. So difficult early days, but there's 4 games left, still lots to do. So yeah, still not going to give up on this team just yet. But Yeah. I can feel I get flashes to you, Mr. Co, and the OWA. That's what I'll say, and I'll leave it at there. And shall we move on? But well done, Graham. Played very well indeed.
Yeah, well done, Graham. We will come back to him for another one of his games a little bit later on. But first, after a draw against JD, Tom Huns gets a 4-0 victory over the Imperial Nobility here. 20 SPP, 2 casualties, 4 touchdowns. The perfect bounce back after that tough draw and losing some players. Exactly what he will have needed to get a bit more SPP and some skills on those players. For James, a tough game, a few tough games in a row for James, really. He is in quite a difficult group. He's got a win under his belt already, but then his last 2 games have been against 2 former champions. John, who's a 3-time champion, Tom, who is a former champion as well. 4 A&DBBL titles in his last 2 games was always going to be a challenge, and he's met Tom when Tom was maybe needing a bounce back as well.
I was myself and Graham were on the table next to this as well, and I've been on the end of this sort of result against Tom Huns as well. And good evening, Tom, if you're in chat, and he did admit it. He got some great kickoff results as well. He got those blocks. It seemed to go that whenever a ball went loose, it went to a dark elf, and as soon as it did, the dark elves were away and they were scoring. You know that Tom is in the zone and he's playing very well, and everything's going his way, especially when he has the luxury of choosing which dark elf to put into the end zone to hand off to get the SP. So when he starts selecting SP, you know he's doing very well as well. He did get the 3 injuries against, but by that stage against the Nobility, who were 2 players down themselves. It was a tough day, and especially with some boneheads at the wrong time for the Imperial Ogre. Not a good day, but it's a learning curve. And it was nice to see at the end, I was chatting to James about it, and he was still smiling, which was good. And as we've always talked about, for the first 3 games to come out of there with 1 win and 2 losses, but he's got his SP, he's starting to build up nicely. I think it'll put him in a good place. Whether or not he goes through in the Champions or whether or not he goes into the conference, I think it'll be a good opportunity for him to learn as well. It's the one thing John Reader said to him and all coaches. We mentioned this last week. Your expectations in your first season are your own. Manage them, learn from them. Yeah, have an idea of what you want to get out of it. Learn about what your team can do, what it can't do, what are its strengths, what are its weaknesses, where you need to build, and use it as that springboard as well. So difficult match, difficult group for. Well, I think all groups are difficult. So I think it'll be a lesson learned for James. And again, Mr. Tom Huns goes from strength to strength, but still a lot of strong coaches out there.
You sometimes learn more from your 4-0 losses than you do from your 1-0, 2-0 wins, which always sucks to hear and sucks to be on the receiving end of. But like you said, a lot to learn for some of the coaches who are newer to the season. This is a very tough group for them to get through. So well done to Tom. Another good victory. Team starting to look pretty scary here. Block sidestep on a witch elf. Dodge on all 3 blitzers, 3 of the 4 blitzers, shadowing, catch, dirty player, all skills that can come in helpful on the lineman. So, very well done to Tom. He's starting to build a typically scary team. We'll see how far they can go. Moving on then to the Argoth Ewers and the Los Amazons Dodgers, a 1-1 draw here, 2-0 on the casualties to the Amazons, interestingly, in a pouring rain game that saw points even. And we'll say it again, a huge congratulations and well done to Harrison for his fundraising effort this week. I don't know if the fundraising, if the donation page is still open. If it is, you can go and you can donate. He did a magnificent job. The link is, I think, in the YouTube description of the last roundup. So go and have a look and donate some money. A fantastic effort from him. Not the wrist action I was having at his age, but you can't really get fundraising for that, so probably a better cause. So well done to Harrison.
Have you
But
been?
in this
Sorry,
game,
let's take a moment. Have you been reading the Tom Feeks Black Book again?
I have been. I have. Tom Feeks left me with his black book, and it sent me down a hole. But
Let's dig ourselves out there. Let's talk Norse.
Let's talk Norse. 1-1 here, and Norse versus Amazons is always quite an interesting battle because they're two teams that were released at the same time. They pretty much mirror each other in a lot of ways. Number of positionals mirror each other. The style of the positional mirrors each other as well. One's block heavy, one is dodge heavy. So this is an interesting kind of battle, and I'm never really sure whether one team is kind of better than the other. But the more I see of Amazons, the more I think that they are certainly more kind of sturdy than you maybe initially think.
I think if you cannot get the armor breaks against them, then they can cause an incredible amount of frustration and disruption as well. It's something we talked about last year in particular and the year before. It's do you dodge or do you block? So it was a solid first half. This pouring rain is not going to help either of these teams. A good opening coming back. It did particularly make me smile when I heard Jack Hans in the store say to Harrison, "Get off my pitch," which is always a lovely thing between rival family members when they do that as well. So I'm assuming that was after Harrison had got a couple of fouls in himself. So it was very tight game. It was a very solid game. It was showing some of the strengths we've talked about with Jack. A lot more pitch control, especially against edge teams as well. A good one, a good point for each coach, I think, as opposed to 2 points dropped, Chris, in the overall standings.
Yeah, and Darkside is another closely contested group. This is a good result for Jack, moving him up the field. Harrison tends to have very good seasons, very bad seasons. I've had various people say to me that he has sometimes he gets some of the worst dice that you ever see, and has some of the worst luck. But I think he'll be happy to come out of this with the 11 SPP. Definitely see it as not having dropped a point and a point gained, and um, these two coaches could, I can see them both finishing in the top half of this table in what is a tricky group to call. I think there's a lot of coaches that it's difficult to say, looking at outside, who is going to be in that top four. So we'll see how they both get on. But well done, lads, on a solid, good game played out. We are going back once again to Swamp Dome, and this time it is the Dark Elves versus the returning Elven Union on their debut. A 1-0 victory for the Dark Elves here. Both coaches coming away with it relatively unscathed, only the one injury each. And some I mean, it's elves on elves, isn't it? It's elves on elves, but we've got an interesting pair up here because we've got some very solid elves versus the team that I always refer to as kind of the elves of all trades. Like they seem to have the ability to do everything, but Justin in previous seasons has built this team into one that's very, very scary. Blitzers with dodge, tackle and jump up, a catcher who's strength 4, a catcher who's movement 9 with block. That's basically a gutter runner.
Yeah.
But he's had a tough start against a Dark Elf coach who himself has lost a few players, but played some solid games, played really well in the games that he's had. And, for his first season in the A&DBBL, has hit the ground running against what I think is probably one of the more difficult games in this group.
On paper, I thought this was going to be a close match, but I thought it was going to go the other way. I thought Justin's, expertise, shall we say, he knows his elves inside out. He's played a lot with the gladiators. He's had some great results, over the last couple of seasons once he's played these. So to be honest, I did expect it. But Phil, doff the hat to Phil, played an exceptional win. Beat the Ducks, obviously, as we know, Christopher.
He
Let's
did.
move on from that. Beat the Ducks, and he's come up against another very experienced, very strong coach. He's playing well. He's got the leader on the runner to give him the extra reroll. He's got a blodger of his own in terms of that blitzer. Okay, he's got a blitzer which has been stat busted to movement 6, but hey, a movement 6 block piece in most teams is a really, really good thing to have. And I think he's given himself a good platform to come on, to come on for the second half of the season with. He's got 2 out of 3 wins, and as we'll come on to see when we look at the standings, a really, really good match. If we look at the timeline of the match, it tells us again a very tight first half, cagey, neither player overcommitting. And when it was needed, the Dark Elves just took it on turn 15. So very close, very interesting match as well. I did expect it. Kudos to Phil, and my apologies, Justin, for betting for you or betting on you as needed. Yeah, definitely not the score that I would have predicted at the start. Again, cliche, like we said before, nothing is a gimme in this season as well, and there's going to be a lot more surprise results.
I don't think Justin will be too concerned with a close loss like this and keeping the team together, not losing any players in that first game. I think he'll see there are points out there. Um, I again, I see this again as coaches, lots of different coaches taking points away from each other, and that possibly opening up the midfield in this group. Um,
Yeah,
there's a few. This is one of those results that, yeah, to be fair, and apologies to Phil. I probably thought this was going to go Justin's way, and so I think games like this could end up being really, really key. Um, I would still put money on Justin to get out of this group, though, in that top four. I absolutely would. I can see both of these coaches getting out. We'll just have to see how their other games go. Well done to both of these coaches. A good elf bash here, and a very good result for the Dark Elf team. On to the penultimate game, and we're back to Graham for a 2-0 victory against the Elf Preservation Society. Graham continuing this great run that he's having, with 2 touchdowns, 1 casualty on his side, 12 SPP coming out of this game. Against Mark, whose Dark Elves have struggled a little bit. They got
Wood Elves,
Wood
Chris.
Elves, apologies. Wood Elves have struggled a little bit. A good first game draw, but then a couple of losses coming after that, bringing Maple into this game, who we've seen once before, to great effect. Scott, you know Wood Elves well. Graham went into this game with a higher team value, allowing Mark to bring someone like Maple. We know that Maple has superstar
Yeah.
potential. Is it the choice you would have made? Would you have maybe looking at Mark's team? Would you have looked at one of maybe the Elf star players to kind of give him a bit more movement? We know that trees in Wood Elves can be a bit 50-50.
Yeah, I've learned the hard way. I don't take trees when I play woodies myself, having to do them. However, when I saw that Graham had a lot of players back, who were missing next game when he played me, so he got that back, which gave Mark that level of inducements to allow him to take Maple. I didn't think it was a bad choice, and it seemed to be coming to fruition, especially with niggling injuries, to start with as well. 2 in the first half there for the Elves. Um, Graham scored, though, turn 6 relatively quickly as well. So it puts then the Elves on the back foot, and it just looked like, in its sense, that Mark couldn't get that breakthrough that he needed as well. So yes, he might be getting the casualties, but there were enough Amazons, and enough Amazons back with the good skills. So the Wrestle Strip Ball Piranha Warrior Blitzer had been come back as well. The Warrior Blitzer, who is now missing next game, was in here, plus the Dodge Frenzy Dauntless Wrestle, now ridiculous line woman, that's in there. So Graham's done a really good match. To get one result is great. To build on it, to get that second continual result is really, really good. So kudos to Graham for getting this. I think for Mark, I think it is a learning curve, and it's that trade-off when you look at Woodies. Do you go for that 2 War Dancer start, or do you go for that 1 War Dancer, 1 reroll, 1 thrower? Horses for courses. But he's got not a bad lineman coming in there. He's now got dodge and sprint on a Wood Elf lineman, which in effect, he can get sure feet on that, gives him in effect, movement 10 piece, which is always going to be good. And of course, then he's got block on another lineman. So I think it's one of those long term builds, and I experienced that myself talking to Mark. When my first season, I think I lost 2 and drew 1 in my first 3 games. But when it clicks, it can click, and then Woodies can be a very, very strong force as well.
Is there anything you would be saying to Mark at this point? It's his first season. He's got a point on the board, but he's got 2 losses now. There's a few games, 4 games left to play for him. Um, he is starting to build some strong players there. He's got a bit of lingering SPP. Kind of what would be, as somebody who, to be fair, probably in your first Wood Elf season had a more difficult time, but
Yeah,
then but then by the time you got to playoffs, had a very good run, and then in your second season had a very, very good run again.
yeah. I
It's
think it
very
was.
much perseverance, isn't it?
It's very much perseverance. It's very much about a 2-season project with Woodies, unless you're redrafting. Um, and I think a 2 War Dancer build is just such a go for. I mean, to have a player with Blodge and Leap in there as well, and to do all that crazy cage diving, as we know, when it works, it annoys the hell out of your opponents. When it doesn't, it can be really frustrating. And having that extra dodge piece at this stage is incredibly important. So I would say if it was to Mark, stick it, keep going, get that treasury up to 125. It might take another couple of matches because he's only got the 1 dedicated fan, but keep it going. Get your second War Dancer, and when you've got 2 War Dancers and a thrower, that really opens up the pitch for a lot of opportunities and a lot of end-to-end plays as well.
Hey Scott,
Hey, Chris,
we've made it to the last game, game 17.
we're
We've done it.
professionals, Chris. We know what's
We've
what.
done it.
I
Um,
know.
and game 17, a 2-1 victory for Simon and his Harlequins against the Argarthan Mewers. In Dark Elves versus Norse, he's come up against a opponent that can beat him to a pulp, with all the block that those Norse have got. And Simon's put in a good Dark Elf performance here. You have to say the Norse scored quickly. The runner, a completion, and then a touchdown on turn 8 for the Dark Elves. And then it's turn 16 with the Witch Elf to take the win.
Yeah.
You know, on paper, it's a classic 2-1 grind for Simon. He had a great time last season when he was playing some standing games with the Dark Elves. He really enjoyed them, and he's brought that through to this season. It's great to see.
Good to see again, exactly like we talked about with Graham. Simon seems to be clicking with this team. Yeah, he did have a bit of an inducement, and always having a Bloodweiser keg is not a bad thing up your sleeve, especially against Norse. But then the key thing that I saw on this was I thought the 2-1 grind, I thought showed good control, good effort from Simon as well there, especially now he's got his third reroll. Is the 3 casualties against the Norse. Now, I don't know the reason behind. If anyone in chat does, if you are in, Jack, it was that injury missed next game on Ulf the Ulfurner.
That's the
Out
killer
of
one, isn't it?
nowhere, was that a dodge out? Was it a kickoff event from the referee after that touchdown? Was it? Yeah, what was it? That really seemed to just to move it in towards Simon's favour. But Simon did that great result. Jack playing a bit more aggressive in terms of maybe he was pressured into getting that early touchdown from his 2 Valkyries. His 2 Valkyries are looking very, very good indeed. So it'll be an interesting one where he goes from this. He'll go into his next match. He's got a nice amount of treasury, 115k has Jack. He will need another lineman. Maybe is he going to go for a berserker? Is he going to, or maybe sack and rebuy that Ulfurner? But you don't want to get rid of that Ulfurner.
I think
Not
there's
a
too many
block
good
guard,
skills on
mighty
there,
blow.
isn't it?
Yeah,
The Mighty Blow block guard is an incredible combo.
yeah.
And yeah, it'll be interesting what he does with the money, whether he will kind of see who his next opponent is, look at kind of the inducement levels that are there.
Having
Jack,
2 beer boars it feels a bit risky. So if that
it's
was me,
tough. Yeah.
yeah, I'd be looking to take some of that treasury, at least get 1 more lineman. So you've got that in the bank, or maybe even get 2 linemen, so you've got that fallback position as well. So you can still afford to lose at least one beer ball, maybe, or one lineman during that match.
I think that's maybe the positive that Jack's got here. Looking at his next game, is that he's got 3 rerolls already. He's already got the APOC. And he's now got the treasury that he could simply, if the berserkers don't really work for him, he could just get 2 linemen and add them to this team. And the Norse linemen with thick skull and block, yeah,
Yeah,
their armor value is a bit lower, but they are solid pieces that only need a couple of skills. I mean, look at Sven has got tackle, Woden has got wrestle. Those are 2 good positional pieces now at this point. They're
yeah,
not really rushing anywhere. And I've heard him, because he's got the beard boars. I've heard when he's been playing him making the use of the pick me up as well to try and get the players up sooner. I think that maybe just a couple of linemen to reduce the reliance on the beard boars, give him a bit of a stronger team,
yeah.
is probably all he needs. And the results are there for Jack, and it's only a matter of time before we see him really go far, I think, with this team.
Agree.
Well, let's have a look at the tables, because the tables are all now looking pretty tasty after a few more games played. Starting at Darkside, the Disco Dangerettes are at the top on 7 points, but the Harlequins move above the Argartha Muirs into second place. Argartha Muirs with more games played there. Amazons only 2 games played and nipping at the heels, looking like they could go further up in the group. Goblins still looking quite ominous in 5th place with some results there, and Gnomes yet to play, so can possibly throw a spanner in the works when they get some games under their belt. Looking at Longship, another close midfield here, but 5 Rules of Dodge sit at the top on 10 points, followed by the Ital Gougers, who are yet to lose a game or even draw a game, yet to drop a point, the John Reeder's side after 2 games. Tipsy Tankards also yet to drop a point in 3rd with only 1 game played, and the Lizard Men making out the top 4. The Orc Goblin Ogre team of Reckham AFC propping up the bottom half of leading the bottom half of the table, even in
I
what
think
again is a close group.
I think if we look at Longship as well, Chris, it epitomizes what we've just been talking about. If you look at that between 3rd place and 6th place, nothing. It's just the balance in terms of touchdowns, casualties, etc. So all of these coaches still have to play themselves, play not themselves. Sorry, they have to play each other, I should say. It's too early for that, League C. So it's going to make the last few games, as we go into after the first third of the season, it's only going to get more exciting and more interesting. And we know there are some teams in there, JD, Leanne, James as well, already with a win under his belt, who can upset the apple cart very easily.
Looking at Middenheim, again, a group that actually does look quite tight, when you look at actually the way the results have gone. Orphic Gladiators sit at the top on 8 points, closely followed by the Lavender Lynxes, who have played an additional game. Dave Rue with the Foxhole Road Scavengers with games in hand, sitting only 2 points behind the leaders. So this is going to be a very good race to the top here. Wildermere Wasps move into the positive playoff positions on 4th place. But you've got Jamie sat there in 5th with only 1 game played, but that 1 game is a win. And you've got Dark Elves, Wood Elves, and Necromantic Horror at the bottom of the table, who all have more points in them. So this group, I think, could be wildly shuffled with a few more games to play. And looking at Swamp Dome, Mighty Ducks still sitting at the top on 12 points with 6 games, just 1 game left to play. 12 points, not sure if it will be enough, because if everyone keeps trading points elsewhere, that does help the Ducks. Acredes moves up to 2nd on 7 points, and Claws of Corn with 2 wins moves up into 3rd place, with our very own Mr. Tom Hovell in the positive positions as well. Greystone Gladiators only with the 1 game played. Melton Mudpackers only 1 game played. So there are teams at the bottom there who can absolutely claw their way further up that table. That is all 17 games. Look at that. We made it. Without Tom Hovell's supervision, we managed to get through. A great number of games played there. Well done to everyone for so many games being played this week. Keep getting your games in. Keep plowing through. You have until the end of the first week in September to get all of these games played. we're still early days, but make sure you keep pace. It's to make sure you don't have any catching up to do later in the season. So keep getting those games in. Thank you very much, Mr. Bryant, for joining me this week. Thank you,
Pleasure, Christopher.
everybody, for listening and for watching along. We will see you next week for another roundup of all of the games from the A&DBBL Season 9. We'll see you then.